Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too, as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, and live the life we love. It's Friday, so it's PowerPoint Day. Let's get right into it. This is called Zones of Annihilation. If you've never seen The Power of Myth, that was put out in the late 70s on PBS with Bill Moyers as the interviewer and Joseph Campbell, I certainly suggest it would add a tremendous amount to your life. Mythology was the psychology of antiquity, and psychology is the mythology of modernity. Great little phrase from James Hillman. But this is the way that they understood what was going on, both in the inner world and in the outer world, of which it was a reflection. Now remember, the soul is longing for beauty in its many forms. I also think that we ought to be called homo aestheticus, even though it seems like sometimes we're more like homo destructiveness, but the soul longs for beauty. And now, why fight about symbols? Symbols are adult toys. We should play with them in the same way and understand the difference between fact, simile, and metaphor. A fact is, they say there's a new lion cub at the zoo. You don't have to believe. You go to the zoo and you see it. It's there. That's a fact. But a simile is where you wake up one morning and you say, have a cup of coffee and Kodiak roast. I feel like a lion today. That's a simile. You're not a lion, but it's an analogy to the kind of like power of walking in your own realm. And then in the metaphor, it's where you liken two things to be one and the same. I have a dream where the rabbis of all time come to me in glistening white, and they tell me to follow them. And I get up and say, I am the Lion of Judah. Well, a court can't disprove it in the metaphoric world, but neither can I prove it. That's a metaphor. So play with the toys. Symbols are adult toys. Don't fight over them. Now, do you know your philosophical lineage? I'm saying yoga is one of mine, one of the main ones. But like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, the job of the philosopher is to show others how little they really know. And as Oscar Wilde says, only the shallow know themselves. So it's an ongoing inquiry into ourselves. It's called swadhyaya in yoga, the self-initiated study of the self. And as Krishnamurti says, to be means to be related. So the study of oneself is the study of everything. Now, every living being in the world is knowingly or unknowingly on a spiritual pilgrimage. That's the way I tend to phrase it. Cross-cultural studies of mysticism, it's unmistakably similar. The universality of human spirituality, the metaphor might be different, the geographical location might be different, the historical moment might be different, but the purport is the same. And it doesn't matter how you do this, how you cultivate it. The rose doesn't care what nationality the gardener is. There are beautiful roses in England, beautiful in Holland, beautiful in South America, and so forth. Just do the work, be the gardener, cultivate, water, weed, plant, fertilize. It's sure to grow. And the whole thing is called harmonizing opposites, bringing everything to a state of balance. Yoga samatva. Yoga is perfect balance. Easy to say, hard to do. But you'll notice that in the sine curve, there's a dot of white in the black and a dot of black in the white. Nothing is solely 100% itself, except that it has some kind of admixture with it. So harmonize the opposites. Now, why is the teachings precious? Well, they say it's like a gem, because the beauty of a gem is its constancy, its immutability. In a world of perpetual perishing and passing away, it stays the same over decades. Isn't that the beauty of deep spiritual truth? Now, my teacher says yoga is not a casual subject, but must be done with religiosity. He says, when I practice, I'm a philosopher. When I teach, I'm a scientist. And when I demonstrate, I'm an artist. Beautiful way of understanding. But religiosity means you got to really apply yourself. Never let it go with your vigilance. But remember this. We say, looking for a teacher is like the person who wanted to get out of the rain who jumped into the ocean. It's going to bring on some stuff a little faster than you expected. And it's going to really challenge you, but it's going to hasten your spiritual growth. All right? Who's ready to dive in? Now, I always like to say that the university is where philosophy, psychology, and physical education, as well as pastoral counseling, come together. These buildings are inseparable. We may have decontextualized them and seen each one of these as a separate entity, but the truth is that at the university, you learn to study everything, the ecology of everything. At the gym is where you get your fitness and health together, and the temple is where you experience the devotional aspect of yourself, the pastoral counseling, you could say. So you could see how Philosophy, psychology, physical education, pastoral counseling all go together. That's what yoga is for me. So remember, find those things that give you verve, life, passion, bring you up, help you soar, because that is where you realize that joy impregnates. But sorrow is what brings forth. And don't be afraid to cry, because tears normalize brain chemistry. Take risks. If you want to be happy, if you win, you'll be happy. And if you lose, you'll be wise. Conflict is the beginning of consciousness, as the feminists say. So you have to go against the pattern, the habit, the status quo. And of course, that's going to ruffle some feathers, both in people who maybe not want you to change, or think that the kind of change that you're doing is not beneficial to you, certainly maybe not to them. But also your own habits have to be broken. And so you realize in order to do that, you got to descend into your own darkness. You don't become enlightened by meditating on figures of light, but by descending into darkness. So says Carl Jung. But what the hell does he know? And then remember, your aggression keeps sadness at bay, and sadness keeps anger at bay. But behind both are beauty. So if your first reaction to something is probably you're pissed off, probably right behind that is how sad you are, how down you are. And if your first reaction is like you're depressed and out of it and really down, right behind that is how pissed off you are. And behind both of those is the beauty, the poignancy of the human predicament. So keep that in mind, not only for yourself, but when you meet other people. And then most important is change the way you talk to people. As Confucius says, rectification of language is the rectification of society. We have to learn to talk to each other in a more civil way, in a polite way, in a more articulate way, in a way that doesn't immediately polarize us and create a radicalization on the other side, that we don't trigger each other, but instead soothe each other, help each other come to greater clarity and understanding between us. And how do you do that? Well, conversation is intercourse for the soul. Keep talking with your neighbors, with your friends, and eventually, of course, with people who you initially might judge, demonize, and make them, instead of realizing it's all us. And it's imperative for us to find a way to break through and not be triggered by other people. Most important is to remember, when death finds you, may it find you alive. Don't go into death ass backwards. Go into it facing forward like a bridegroom going to meet his bride. Because the closer you are to death, the more you feel alive. I hope you all remember that as a life lesson. I'm living with that every single day. Have a great day.